Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning. Yeah, I've been up since 3 this morning. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. I'm telling you, the internet is amazing. Brains are connecting. The internet, social media is one huge brain. And if you know how to work the internet, you will expand your own brain. The messages are getting out. Every single one of us is a messenger. Every single one of us is like a virus/messenger. How we receive and send messages is based upon our biochemistry, our gut brain. We have a gut brain that has a way to process information, and then we have a brain that has a way to process information. And if they're not aligned, you're going to have mixed messages, anomalies, and then on a death trajectory. Something woke me up this morning at 3. Hey, I've slept in till about maybe 6 or 7 before. And then when I have these new revelations, okay, I'm on this, I don't even know what you call it. When my body is trying to process information and it has an aha, it gets my ass up at 3 in the morning. And I can't keep it to myself. Okay? I cannot keep it to myself. I need to have it processed by all of you, because some of you can receive this message and will able to process it with me and then give me or plug in the holes. Others of you will reject it and just try to destroy it. But no matter what, the message always gets out. Messengers will always get a message out. Viruses will never really truly be contained. I mean, they can for a little bit, but a virus is a message. You try to shut a person's message down, they already said the message already went to somebody else. Somebody else took that message and processed it through their system. They may have a similar background and a similar belief system, and they go and process a message and get that message out. No different than when someone infects somebody with a virus that will either process the information and project it positively, or process the information like a virus and project it negatively. And that's where you have these pandemics or expansions of consciousness. And so right now we're having pandemics because we're dealing with weak bodies. There may be a few of us that are expanding our consciousness because we understand the formulas to life and we understand the message that's being sent by the universe. But there are others, most people out there right now are receiving the message and that is on a weak body, and it's causing epidemics, pandemics in astronomical proportions. So when I woke up this morning, there's 2 people that I noticed. One had been part of my group, probably in the big group, the 66,000 person group. And then they transferred over to the website when I had that. And then I got him into the secret public Facebook group that is by invite only. You just can't add your friends and family unless I say it's okay. And fear about the salt. I don't have time about somebody fearing the salt. Somebody posted in there, like my moderator posted about her reaction to somebody saying, oh God, whatever the salt. And that's fine, because it was in the right context. She was expressing an experience with somebody noticing a change in her physical appearance, and then they didn't want to hear about it because the salt stuff, whatever. Well, that was almost like bait to have then somebody who really has nefarious intentions to go and then start quizzing about the salt. I don't have time for it. Done. that is a, since I am now going way far beyond most people out there, I don't have time to be trivialized by the people who are afraid of salt. Any clue that somebody has an issue with assault, they are done out of the group. I will not work with them or support them in this journey. They will have to do it on their own. And that's just where I'm going. And that's just because we don't have time to when we are trying to expand humanity, we don't have time for the bullshit. Okay? So so then another person, that same person, Angry Face, one of my videos yesterday. So she's gone. I already gave her an opportunity to explain why she angry faced the video, decided not to respond to me, and I private messaged her and I emailed her. Well, I didn't email her, but I private messaged her and I asked on the public face, well, why did you angry face? No response. And then she did the whole thing with assault at 3 in the morning. So I think the universe is telling me to go check out my group because somebody is inducing fear or having a question about how many grams of salt are in the protocol. And I'm like, you've been in the group and you've been on my Facebook wall for a few years watching. You can go and Google how many grams of salt that are in the protocol. It is not something you're going to debate in my group at all whatsoever. So that person's gone. Another person, I put testimonies out there just so you understand why I woke up and started just coming down, because there are people in my group who are trolls. I know that because they're screenshotting and posting in other groups, and they're cannibalizing their own fellow human. So they're exhibiting the Jeffrey Epstein traits, just so you know, okay, by exploiting people who are in a weak state. Because when you are exposing some of the healing process, you're still in a weak state. You're still going through the healing process. Okay? Because if you were all better and all wonderful, people would know that. But people are going through their healing process, their journey, and then they are risking themselves by talking about their testimony. And some people will not put their name out there because they do not want to be harassed by these predators out there that exhibit Jeffrey Epstein qualities. So somebody on my Facebook, who's been on my Facebook for a while, has then said, why is she being all, why is she being anonymous? She shouldn't be anonymous. She should out herself because this is an encouraging testimony. Anybody questioning anonymous testimonies that's been on my Facebook for a while, or even just a new person, done, gone. I just don't have time or patience. Okay? Hey, Massimo. Because we're dealing with people who are receiving messages from the universe, and it's causing them to explode and then cannibalize and victimize people on the internet as well as out there in the population. I am not going to put any of my people going through a healing process exposed to a predator who takes on characteristics like Jeffrey Epstein, like Alan Dershowitz, because those two, Alan Dershowitz, who is very vocal in intimidating the witnesses against the alleged criminal, Jeffrey Epstein, those are the people who are very boisterous on Facebook. I am not going to put my people who are trying to heal and are still weak, because it's a healing process makes you weak. It is what it is, but that's true. Okay? I'm not going to expose them to the Alan Dershowitz out there, the intimidators, as well as those creepy predators that are going in behind the scenes and trying to undermine, like the Jeffrey Epsteins, who will hide behind lawyers and his money, who could be a potential alleged intelligence asset. I don't know. I'm reading all these different things. So yeah, I have no patience for anybody questioning the anonymous testimonies. None. We have too many predators on Facebook. I would not put anybody in that position to be harassed by a Jeffrey Epstein type of person or an Alan Dershowitz type of person. No patience for that at all. So those two people are gone. So anybody else wants to question why these testimonies are anonymous on my Facebook or in my group, you're done with. Period, point blank. No patience for that. Okay. So anyway, so that's what woke me up this morning, was I knew there was something going on. Just innately, I knew something was going on in the group as well as on my Facebook, and I took care of it. Okay. And then, what was it? Pakis Savanius. He's the Greek mountain man. He's in my Facebook with his wife/girlfriend, maybe, Amy, and he does a lot of National Geographic type photos out there in the Grand Tetons over there in Yellowstone National Park. And he was, introducing me to Tartaria and that ancient civilization, because it translated, well, it seemed like it was appropriate because they talk about giants and the giants from the past, and then how humanity, and then people are not really or at least the mainstream is not recognizing that these giants existed. Some people call them Nephilim, others are just the giants of the past. The dinosaurs, the big trees, the Devil's Monument or the Devil's Tower. I mean, could be a petrified tree that people say, oh, it's just the earth bringing up the magma that turned into stone. I mean, there's so many different. Hey, Tiffany, there's so many different theories around that. But I'm like, hey, this potentially could be true. Yes, way back in the past, you had the dinosaurs, and you had giant people, because you still have giant people, and there could have been maybe giant trees. So, and then all this different architecture and all this stuff. So it's interesting learning about that, and it's okay. That's cool. And then my brain gravitated towards the Ebola stuff. That's really where, and it's not a coincidence that it's becoming. You're seeing now news reports that the CDC and the World Health Organization is putting out warnings without completely alarming the population. They're saying, okay, well, this is not an emergency, but it's enough of an emergency to report by NBC, CDC, and WHO. And I gotta blow my nose. Okay. So then, I know last night I was just talking about the messages, because viruses are messages. Viruses are getting a bad rap because we have humanity that is so weak. So I'm watching this Ebola, and it's on my Facebook wall, okay? I'm watching this Ebola. It's a very good documentary. And they talk about the origination of it. It's out of Africa. They found ground zero. Now, the conspiracy theorists be like, oh, yeah, it's biotech planting bioweapons, and they decided to go and try to kill Africans. I mean, come on. At some point, these conspiracies become ridiculous. Now we have to finally figure out truly what is going on, because we're seeing now with the J juice how easy it is to reverse our mutations and, well, reverse our illnesses. And we're also seeing a higher level of consciousness in the J juicers, in some of you. And we're also seeing how the J juice is being substantiated in other contexts. Okay. And so this is why I got away from the conspiracy community. So I'm not going to buy anybody saying that the patient zero was probably somebody in the UN that vaccinated a kid and now there's a pandemic. I'm not going to go there. If somebody wants to go there, they're off my Facebook, just so you know. Okay. So in this BBC documentary, they talked about the origination, which is this one child. Okay. Now, who are the weakest people in our population? Sick people, obviously. And they exhibit all of their weaknesses, and you see them throwing up all over the internet. But children and the elderly are the weakest. And then also potentially even pregnant mothers. Well, not potentially, yes. Pregnant mothers are also the weakest people in our population, because they're sharing all of their minerals and their immunity and all that stuff with another being in their body. Okay. So this child is patient zero, and then she dies, and they don't know where this hell, what was going on. And this is like somewhere in the middle of a village out there in like New Guinea, I think it's New Guinea. It's in Africa, all the way to the left side of Africa, right next to Sierra Leone and all of those surrounding areas. And then the sister dies. And then the parents die. And then it starts spreading to other villages. And then the narrators and the different people they're interviewing are the UN workers, the WHO, the Ministry of Health in those regions. And the information was being suppressed because from the government over there, because they didn't want to scare their foreign businesses, or foreign investors. The businesses are doing business in the region. They didn't want to upset their revenue. Okay, so they kind of like just they put a they didn't want to get the information out, so they were diminishing the severity of it. And so then it started reaching astronomical proportions, and then the government was then dumping the people. So how this is being spread was through caretakers, and then what was going on is it started dumping the people who were afflicted or were around those villages that had the Ebola in the slums of one of the areas. I think it's like Liberia or something. So I think it moved to Liberia. It started getting, started mobilizing out. What is it? Being transmissioned out, however you want to call it. Started spreading. Okay, and so people were dying, of course. And then all of a sudden, everybody was bringing all of these patients in these, and there was like no kind of medical stuff. It was just a place to dump all of the afflicted, or what they think is the afflicted people. And then there was a rumor that these white doctors were coming in and injecting people, trying to kill off the Black population. And so they went and overran that whole little holding dumping ground, and there was blood everywhere. People were stomping in the blood. So, and also one of the patients, and this is before that happened, she was told that the UN was looking for her because she was one of the bigger cases. And then she actually went into, I think she tried, because she heard that they were looking for her. She thought that they were trying to hurt her or inject her or something, kill her. So she fled into the bush and then went to the international border and then crossed the border. So then Ebola then got introduced to an area that was never introduced to. So now Ebola is now spreading. And then these places, and so then when the villagers in another area in Liberia, in the slums of Liberia, went and stormed the compound that held all those patients, they obviously contracted it, and it's spreading. Now they notice over time, and there's a certain time frame, that the numbers of patients coming into the clinics were less and less, and they went and investigated to figure out, are they staying at home and then infecting their whole families and villages? Well, I guess the information, the education from international workers that were coming in and risking their own lives to teach these people, they were taught that you need to bury your dead. Don't try to nurse them. Oh yeah, you can nurse them, but you need to bury the dead. Okay, and so that's what was going on. So they started burying all the dead, which stopped the communicableness, stopped the spreading of it, or slowed it, not stopped it, but slowed it down some. Oh, it's out there, you guys. Believe me, it's out there. And this film was done back in like 2017. I mean, you'll see it. But this has been since like 2013, 2014. And then we knew about Outbreak, that movie back in the 90s with Kevin Spacey. Okay, so it's been around, and they've known about Ebola for a while. And Obama did address it, and the UN did also address this. So those of you that are against the UN, that think the UN is so horrible and they're child trafficking and all, get off that shit for a minute. Because really, truly, there are people that are corrupt. Yes, we're not saying that there aren't corrupt people, but these agencies and the UN are really trying to contain these certain things, like these viruses. Now, these viruses could be good. Why would I say they'd be good? Because we have learned through research that these viruses were like the missing link between the Neanderthals to the Homo sapiens, okay? We're seeing that when you have mutations from your environment, from viruses and from just the different climates and the different, environments, that the body's able to adapt. Okay, You've all been exposed to some type of viruses. You're asymptomatic for a certain amount of time. Okay, so those of you that are relatively healthy, before you start seeing your health failing, you've been exposed to every single virus: HPV, herpes, Ebola, not Ebola, I don't know, maybe Ebola, Epstein-Barr, all the different viruses and bacteria. And you have a strong immune system, a strong body. Your body processes the information, and then it basically allowed you to evolve. Okay. Oh, we got a troll. Cynthia Roman Ramirez. Cynthia Roman Ramirez, another predator out there. Another one. We have predators out there that exhibit the characteristics of a Jeffrey Epstein or of a potential bully out there, like an Alan Dershowitz, and she is showing her colors. So we have somebody here, so you look and you can see exactly, not a very healthy person. Not at all. Watch her. Those are the predators on the internet, just so you know. Those are the ones that will victimize not only the weak people in our society, but her own family through her behavior, because she cannot process this type of information. Okay? So this is why we have people that do not understand this information, because they have a very weak body, weak immune system. And then also when you have children, children do come from weak bodies, and the bodies know that it's on an extinction trajectory and it needs to procreate, and then it needs to then reproduce. Okay? So anyways, so let's get onto the real thing of this. Let's go now to the I'm going to my Facebook. Because we got to know that Africa is where the origin of man, okay? And this is where I was like, oh my God, there's something huge, there's something bigger. And so there are people in their universe, there are people in our world that will not be able to process this message. They are biologically programmed on that death trajectory. They will not death trajectory, because there's two brains. There's the gut brain and there's the brain. The gut brain, if it's not getting the right bacteria and the right nutrients, it will not be able to process the good information from these viruses. So you're going to see them glitch, which is exactly who this person who was laughing, you just saw her glitch because she's not processing the information. You can see the hormonal imbalances just by her profile pic. That is an example of somebody, the predators out there, who have imbalances, and it manifests in behaviors of victimization and exploiting the weak. Okay, so we have a gut brain and we have a brain. The brain is able to receive information like right now, and then the gut brain has to be able to receive the information from the bacteria and then process it, and then excrete the excess, and then absorb what it needs to then evolve you into a more advanced human. So we have viruses right now on weak bodies that are evolving people into more advanced predators or more advanced peaceful people. Okay? So the bullies on the internet are taking in that information from the viruses, and it's making them more advanced in their predatory characteristics, their behaviors. And you see that right there. Okay, so you have to understand how these viruses impact, and they could be impacting you for good or impacting you for evil, for trying to destroy life. And that young lady who was laughing is trying to destroy life. Now, I'm not saying that she's doing anything like illegal, but the energy that she is portraying and projecting is that characteristic. And so it's infectious, especially if she is associating with like-minded people, okay, who also have weaknesses. All right, So Homo sapiens, the first modern humans, evolved from their early hominid predecessors between 200,000 and 300,000 years ago. They developed a capacity for language about 50,000 years ago. The first modern humans began moving outside of Africa starting about 70,000, 100,000 years ago. Africa. Everything, all roads lead back to Africa. Not all roads lead back to Rome. Let's get rid of that whole little concept, okay, which has its own merits, I get. But all roads seem to lead back to Africa. The origination of man, all these different viruses. And so on a very strong body, viruses can be very beneficial as well. Hello, Pamela J. Perkins. They can be very beneficial and accelerate the human evolution to the next level. But why we're not evolving to the next level as far as humans is because it's landing on weak bodies. People are applying the wrong programming to their bodies when they receive this information. So let's see how I can explain what I mean by how they receive information. When you guys go and travel, or you go on the internet and you read all the different new groups that are out there, you're expanding your brain. When you go take a college class, when you read a book, when you travel to a different country, you're taking in information, whether it's through face-to-face talking or making hand signs, or you're taking on the bacteria and the viruses from that environment. Every single time you walk into someone's house, you're taking in information and you're processing it. And then guess what? You become more enlightened. You understand how other cultures and why people do the things they do. You understand this culture, Jewish culture, Christian culture, holistic culture, an allopathic culture. You understand Kwanzaa, or in Rosh Hashanah, in Yom Kippur, right? So you're so well-rounded. You're able to, and you get, and then your process, and now you are more enlightened, expanding your consciousness, and then that actually translates in what you say, what you do, how you feel, okay? And then it also translates into your body, mind, and spirit. When you and you've seen those windows of where you were able to process all this information, maybe when you were in college and you went abroad and you're relatively healthy, you're able to process that information and then do these amazing things that some people do out there. They're able to project all of the information they've ever been exposed to. And then you see the program, and then you see the body decaying, the body dying, and then there goes the message. The message dies with you. But during that time to where you were able to process that information, you were really progressing humanity forward. Okay? So that's how I see the viruses on humanity today. They're messages that people are either going to get or not get. And if they're not going to get it, it's going to come out as a rejection of the information. And it's also going to then manifest in predatory behaviors, major predatory behaviors. And right there, that laughing person was an example of that. And then you look at her profile and you see exactly what I'm talking about. Hormonal imbalances come from the inability to process the messages from the universe. Cancer, disease, and chronic illness, aging, and death comes from the inability to process the messages from the universe. Because when you're able to actually process the messages from these viruses and get an actual positive benefit, you're now able to adapt to anything in society. You're still strong because of it. And who's to say what's next as far as your level of consciousness? But right now we have people who are playing the avoidance game. Oh, I'm not going to watch TV. I'm going to stay away from gluten. I'm going to go and apply turmeric and honey and kombucha and apple cider vinegar. And I'm going to give everybody love, 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 love. And that's all it is. Or talk about GABA, GABA supplements. And so, yes, that's why you're not really seeing the next level of humanity. You're seeing now way more cancer, disease, and chronic illness. I'm already seeing it in my in-laws. I said yesterday that somebody is right now dying from a staph infection. Maybe she might get stabilized and maybe it might buy her a few weeks. Who knows? But the doctors in the hospital knew that she was suffering. She went to the doctor. They knew she had all of this staph infection, leaking leg, both her legs where she couldn't even walk. Okay. And so now she's in the hospital. And so that whole family is being completely destroyed. Completely. Okay. The father died, the mother died, the sister died, and now the next sister is on her way out, and it's being passed down. So when you have children, you have passed your weaknesses, all of your inability to process your environment down to the next generation. Okay? And so that's what you're seeing all over. So you're not seeing a real evolution of expanding consciousness when you're seeing an exhibit and you're seeing everybody around you pass. These spiritual leaders that are out there that are running these different groups, some are balding, others are playing the avoidance game, others are applying antibiotics and aggressive fasting and diets and who knows what else. It's the wrong programming. They're not able to, because if you believe in death, then you're not going to be able to receive the messages. Because how people on JJ's can probably most likely, I don't say even allegedly, how I can receive the messages from all these viruses, because I don't believe in death, okay, that we should die. But I know I've been exposed and I'm seeing some of these viruses come to surface. I feel it, either some skin issues or other types of symptoms. Okay. And when you test, so when you've been exposed to, when people say, oh yeah, I have this virus, but it's, I don't have an outbreak, so I'm fine. I mean, everybody, you don't even know how you contract these viruses. You could be asymptomatic. When you're asymptomatic, that means that you're able to process that virus. It's not doing anything wrong to you. It actually enhances, made you stronger. See, when the government wants to know if you have been vaccinated, it means that you're able to withstand your environment. You're not going to die from an exposure to some aggressive message. And that goes for people who are out there, being that are in controversial groups. Can they withstand the message from the messenger? Some can't, and they have to kick them out of the group because they can't handle the message. Well, that's the same thing. So if you've been exposed, because like when you go to a restaurant and somebody's making your food, you don't know if they wipe their ass and not wash their hands. You don't know what kind of issues that they've dealt with. You don't know anything about them. And people have their tonsils taken out, so they're eating food that is contaminated, but they don't know it. And they've passed all the OSHA guidelines and all that, but still, viruses are that communicable. People have sex with different people, and then they have sex with people who have parents that have major viruses. Okay? So you've been exposed to all these viruses, but why you are asymptomatic is your body is able to receive the message. But when it's not able to, is because your body has become weaker. Then all of a sudden you see cancer, disease, chronic illness, obesity, all that. Okay? All of that. So that's what I'm saying. Don't get snowed by these people out there that believe in death, because there's supernovas and there's black holes out there. So what is supernova? Somebody that illuminates and is so bright and shining and beautiful, and they have a great message, like Tony Robbins. He is a perfect example of a supernova. He has a great message to help people figure out their life in their current state, but he is steadily aging. his light's going to fizzle out because he's also taking part in the pills, powders, and supplements in the holistic industry. Then we have black holes. And there's also nasty supernovas. There's people like the debunkers out there that are very boisterous with their message. See, messages are always going to get out. You cannot stop the message from getting out. No matter what, no matter who you are, I don't care. The message or the virus will always come out. And so the message that you say, like what you're saying and what you're doing, is manifesting from how you are processing the viruses and the bacteria in your body. So this is why the probiotics and J juice is the right message. It's the right bacteria. And it's able to then process the viruses that you're exposed to. But we have to put a good and evil on there because we're coming from weak bodies. But eventually on a strong body, your exposure to all these different viruses is going to make you stronger, as well as take us to the next level of human consciousness, okay? And so those of you, so all of you have been exposed to these messages, and some of you are able to process them, and you have a window where you're strong, and you get your vaccines, and it makes you stronger, right? Then some of you have such weak bodies, you can't process the messages from the vaccines or your environment, and you're going to degrade even further. See, this is a whole nother level that young lady who's laughing on my page, not Massimo, but that young lady, this is way beyond her level of comprehension. Her body, and I'm going to say these people who are the debunkers out there, all the people that don't understand this message, they may be biologically programmed not to be able to process new information. I don't know what it would take in their world to actually get this, but no matter what, you guys have people in your world that no matter how much information you give them, they don't get it or want to get it. And so don't waste your time with them. Just like over there in the Congo right now, there are some people out there that don't that like these workers, okay, the UN peacekeepers, they're going in and dealing with the outbreaks. They're able to withstand the message of Ebola. They haven't succumbed to it because their bodies are strong. But if they believe in death, as their body degrades, that message, that Ebola virus, it may not be Ebola by the time they start degrading. It will then probably mutate into another disease that will have some similarities, but will have other characteristics that won't be exactly technically Ebola. It'll be something different. And this is how our message, so every time we receive a message from somebody or a virus from somebody, then it becomes a new strain, okay? So, or a new message being processed and passed out, like being communicated. So a virus can mutate and turn into something more aggressive, but that aggressiveness could also be in the next level of consciousness. It doesn't mean that it's bad. It could also mean that it's good, but it's based upon who is receiving it. Okay, but right now we're looking at it as bad is because we have very weak bodies out there, that can't handle the message. And so when every time somebody gets exposed to a virus or a message on a strong or weak body, relative to the state of the body, the message is going to be good or bad. And somebody else will catch the message and they will process it and be amazing, and another person would freaking die. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So the thing with Africa is like the cradle of civilization where everything started, human consciousness, human evolution, all of that. And then people started migrating out of Africa, and then then the viruses and all the different things adapted to the different environments, which caused then different skin colors. You realize then the viruses and the bacterias and the environment actually catapulted us to the next level of advancement. Why humans keep evolving in a good way. Now, with the technology, I mean, look, it only took us like 300 or 400. Look where we're at from the 1980s when we had only like VCRs and microwaves. right, Massimo, microwaves and Walkmans. Okay, now we're like doing this. That's how fast we're evolving. So we obviously are deriving some benefit from these viruses. Obviously, we're exposed to it. We're asymptomatic for a certain amount of time, and then we become symptomatic. Why? Because we have weak bodies that are degrading. And some people can't even process the message right off the bat. They're born with major issues, autism, okay? Down syndrome, okay? Major obesity, too skinny. So obviously, the collective is able to derive benefit from the viruses and the bacteria along with the food supply. And what's missing in humanity right now, what's missing in the young lady that's laughing, is that she's probably not taking in enough good bacteria for her gut. She's probably malnourished, so the body is storing fat. And then she's having all of these hormonal imbalances, and they manifest in very predatory behaviors. So you see that in high levels of government because they're not immune. Viruses and degradation do not discriminate, okay? They're universal. So you can see it in high levels of government. You can see it in some Yahoo on Facebook. You'll see it in your neighbors. You'll see it in your family. Viruses don't discriminate, okay? Bacteria doesn't discriminate. That's why the J juice is so universal and so revolutionary, because we all need the right gut bacteria paired with the right nutrients. We all need, obviously, nutrition. We need water. We need electrolytes. We need food. We need sugar. We need minerals. We need air. Okay, so those are universal things that humans need. But what's really vastly missing is the salt paired with the right minerals, and the right probiotics. That is what's missing in humanity, because that's probably what works symbiotically with these viruses. Okay, and why you're seeing the rapid healing in people. You're seeing exponential rapid healing with this formula of J juice. Pain, right now, the World Health Organization and the allopathic community, they're going to eventually have to deal with the whole pain sequence. And right now, you have the holistic people, you have the allopathic, you have all of these spiritual healers out there that are applying the wrong programming. They're trying to mitigate pain. They're trying to manipulate your body so you don't feel pain at all, and you're just like in this other realm, completely oblivious to the messages that are really truly being put out there by the universe. And so it's going to get worse before it gets better. Okay, right now you're just seeing little shades of it on the internet, like from mainstream media. Oh yeah, Ebola, it's not really a concern yet, but it's out there. It's a concern, but not really. I mean, they're really trying to measure their words carefully so they don't create a huge like public outcry and oh my God. But then you're seeing people right now with the flesh-eating bacteria. Now they're going to blame it on the chemtrails. They're going to blame it on the oil spill remedies when they're putting all that bacteria to eat up all the oil and stuff. That's like another Ebola, but it's I mean, because it's not only in the water in Florida, but it's also in lakes, and we're having climate change too, so it's getting hotter, allowing these bacteria to multiply, and these bacteria also are dried up, and they get blown in the wind, so you're inhaling the bacteria. Okay, so we have our own little Ebola in the northeast and the southeast of the U.S. And then we have different ones, like we have, I don't know, what is it? Some kind of fever out there in Arizona. You could look on ProMed, you'll see all of the emerging diseases. Okay, all of these could either enlighten you and bring you to the next level of consciousness, or they can destroy you. And that's what you're seeing right now in humanity, because we've been exposed to all this stuff through our whole lifetime. We have been, whether it's through a vaccine or through someone who shed on you for whatever reason, or through the food supply because someone prepared your food that was afflicted, but they're asymptomatic. And so they sneezed on your food or something, who knows? My dog once, she sneezed on me the other day. She was just sneezing in my bed. And I was just like, oh my gosh, are you okay? And it just sneezed right in my eye, right in my mouth. I'm like, oh God, how many viruses does she have? Oh Lordy. So I go and take my juice. I mean, she's fine, but I know, but things like that happen. You don't really think about that. When someone sneezes on you, when your dog that maybe sick sneezes on you, so there's a virus in your dog, and you're going to contract, like your animals, if you're if you work with livestock or in a zoo, this stuff, you can't stop the message from being communicated. I don't care who you are. People tried to stop me from talking a few years ago. The message still got out. In fact, Dr. Phil got the message out. He made sure it got mainstream, even though, yeah, he was like trying to make fun of me. But the message is out there. And whether or not how healthy or unhealthy you are is going to be the difference on how you receive that message. It's either going to strengthen you or it's going to take you down. Okay? So the messages, the messages and the viruses are neither good nor bad. They're just messages, and they just help the biodiversity evolve into something better. It's like the universe unfolding and expanding. And either you expand your consciousness and regenerate on an infinite level, on a fractal level, or you're going to allow the viruses and the other entities, the parasites, expand. So all of your platforms, your political platforms, whether it's Democrat, Republican, NRA, whatever, all of your conspiracy stuff is not going to make a difference, because viruses and messages do not discriminate. It's out there. And if you don't strengthen your body, you don't strengthen your gut brain as well as your brain, your mind, or your body, mind, and spirit. If you don't strengthen your body, mind, and spirit, you're going to succumb. You're going to go swim with the fishes. You'll be a star seed, spreading your seeds out. You'll be dust in the wind, which is fine. People are happy with that. Okay. But it doesn't have to be. We don't have to be the ones to be going back to the universe like that. We can still continuously live on this infinite fractal type of mechanism, if that's what you truly believe. If you don't believe that people should live forever or live indefinitely or whatever, then your whole life and the way you live your life and your whole outlook is going to reflect that. And then you will start degrading and you start destroying things around you, infecting people with the death programming, the divide and conquer. I mean, people in the holistic community try to tag me in their live videos, and they're talking about avoiding gluten, avoiding this, avoiding that. And I'm like, what the hell? No. In the beginning with J-Juice, you're going to play the discrimination game because you still have major malfunctions that you need to get going and reverse, and you need to strengthen and do a heal and seal, so you can then take on the messages from the food as well as the drink and your environment. But then down the road, you will reintroduce foods back, and you can eat meat, milk, gluten, or gluten-free. Anything that is FDA approved or a fruit and vegetable, you'll be able to eat, and you won't have to play the discrimination game. People who discriminate are on a death trajectory. And it's true, people who discriminate on the J-Juice, they're on a death trajectory until they're able to stop discriminating and they're able to basically adapt to their environment. So discrimination is death trajectory. When you go and bully somebody, that is a manifestation of a death trajectory, a Jeffrey Epstein and Alan Dershowitz. Okay? And I'm gonna bring those two all the time to explain who the bullies are in our society, because that is a major example of what we are creating when we allow people to go and cannibalize and bully, and what we're teaching these kids on the internet. The Alan Dershowitz and the Jeffrey Epsteins are manifesting on the bullies on the internet, these adults who play those same games, but manifest a little bit differently because they can't get close to me or other people. So they play those same games and then are teaching kids on the internet to do that. And then what happens is when you get those advanced messages, the bullying messages on through different people, that message gets stronger and more advanced. And then they turn into those people that actually do go and victimize people in the society. So we have to watch what we're creating when it comes to the message of discrimination. Okay? And there's discrimination in the LGBT, discrimination in the straight community. Everybody who has to set themselves apart from somebody else that doesn't look at the life and doesn't look at things from life and death. Well, yeah, it's a death trajectory. Okay. And so, but you have to understand the laws. What would determine if your message is the right message? If you understand the laws of your society and the laws of your body and the immune system. And where do you get that information from? You get it from government sources, academia. All roads lead back to the government. All roads lead back to the different agencies. All roads lead back to university. Okay? Because they've already have the proof in different contexts. And then all you have to do is just take all the different proof and piece them together to have now a different outcome. That's all J-Juice is taking information from PhDers who've done the extensive research and then have the actual results from their experiments published. And all we're doing is now taking that research and then applying it to the same concepts, but having a different outcome. Taking everything that kept humanity alive and then understanding what causes death in humanity, and understand that during the process of healing, you're going to integrate a few things, and then eventually you'll be on that path of indefinite life, potentially, for those that can process the message. So yeah, there are some people that cannot process this message. And yeah. So this is why, you know, we can't really convict anybody on the internet unless it goes through a court of law. If a court has somebody denying them bail, there's enough evidence to suggest that basically Jeffrey Epstein is guilty. So I'm safe to say that even though, yeah, allegedly he did all these crimes, allegedly Alan Dershowitz did all these crimes, okay, it's already being taken to the next level. So somebody isn't being prosecuted for whatever alleged crime somebody is putting out there. Don't believe the bullshit. Let the law decide. The laws of your immune system, the laws of your body, the laws of your community. And that is where the truth lays within. Okay? If somebody is balding, which means that they have some kind of anomaly in their programming, okay? Because humans are meant to have hair on their head, meant to have hair. I mean, the modern humans now. Are we evolving to be a bald humanity? Well, I've never seen a bald person live indefinitely, so I don't see that as something, as a strength of humanity. Right now, we're seeing people who are aging in our society going bald. It's a sign of cellular degradation, a sign of anomalies, messages that are not being processed correctly. So if somebody is balding in our society, claiming to be a spiritual healer, be wary, because their system isn't balanced correctly. If somebody is aging, claiming to be a spiritual healer, you have to be wary. Okay? Rick Simpson is aging, propagating cannabis. You think cannabis is really good on indefinitely on a weak body? Absolutely not. So Africa, so I have a young lady on my Facebook. She's African American. I tagged her in some of these videos or some of these posts with Africa being the origin of humanity, of course, as well as the major viruses. I mean, the AIDS pandemic back in the 80s originated from Africa. Okay? The cradle of civilization. These Africans out there, but the reason why the Africans are dying out there from these different diseases, because they're poor, they don't have access to many resources. They're at war with each other. Of course, they're reproducing like crazy because they're all on a death trajectory, and they're also being victimized. Yeah, but they're also then reacting to these viruses in their community because they don't have a strong body to receive the message. Imagine if everybody in Africa was able to strengthen their bodies to such an extent to where they're able to receive those messages. They would be the strongest race or the strongest country out there. Why is it that the West is so strong? Because we're able to manipulate. Okay, but I mean, because I've heard that the pale skin is like a mutation. Now, if you have pale skin and you live in Africa and you strengthen your body, you might get darker. Okay? People right now that can't handle the sun and have pale skin and are elderly, you have a weak body, you're not going to be able to create melanin effectively. If anything, you'll burn because you don't have a strong immune system, a strong body, and your integumentary system is malfunctioned. We're seeing people in my group that are talking about how their skin went from being really white a long time ago. Now they're doing the J juice. They're seeing now a different color in their skin. They're able to really tan when they go out in the sun because they're able to adapt to their environment, create melanin. I mean, that's a good mutation. It strengthens the body to be able to adapt to its surroundings. Okay? So all these different viruses that affect different parts of the body could potentially strengthen those systems or destroy them. That's the only way I can really actually explain what these viruses and these different diseases, how they could potentially be received. They can strengthen or they can destroy. And it's relative to how well you strengthen your body. So yeah, all of you that are not doing J-Juice, playing the divide and conquer game, you should be so fucking scared. You really should be. Okay? Because you're seeing people around you drop like flies. The weaker your body is, the stronger the message is out there. These viruses don't discriminate. Bacteria, like the flesh-eating bacteria, doesn't discriminate. You can go and hole up in your house or in your community and not at all interact with anybody, but then you weaken your body to where, yeah, you go out there for a minute and mix in with people in your community who may have traveled or who may have developed something, and you'll get it, and you have such a weak immune system and a weak body, you won't be able to handle it. And then you'll contract something, and then you're like, oh my God, it's the government, they destroyed me. Or it's the foreigners from the southern border coming in and destroying. No. It's the fact that you couldn't adapt to your environment and strengthen your body to take on the message. And so oh my God. Did I think a couple of years ago that I even say that viruses are good? And then the whole thing with civilization, humanity, and levels of consciousness. Oh, hell no. The fact I stayed on J-Juice for such a long time, it cleared my brain, it cleared my body. I'm dealing with purging out viruses. Holy crap. It's the next level of consciousness that I want all of you to experience on a personal level. Some of you won't. I understand that. But that's just the nature of the beast. Some of you are already biologically programmed to not take in new information. Some of you are biologically programmed to play the divide and conquer. Okay, fine. That's your prerogative. But if you're listening to me right now, you have a choice. And then how you respond to me is going to be the difference of whether or not you're going to gain more info and more insight, or you're going to go and maybe if you responded negatively and I block you, you'll find a different way to get my info, because I do put this stuff on YouTube. And I don't block anybody on YouTube because I disable the comments. Okay? I don't do a Patreon account. I don't do a subscription on YouTube. It's all free information. So regardless of your feelings about me, you will always have access to this type of information. The recipe is out there. It's all for free. The support isn't. The book isn't. The book actually gives you access to my support group so you can ask a few questions without treating us like your doctor, because that's not what we're there for. And you can keep track of the research. And some of you will go back to your layers of other predators and you'll go and cannibalize more people. That's the cancers in our society. Okay? So you guys all have a choice. You really do. So yeah, anyways. That's it. That's all I got. I'll talk to you guys later.